kicked off. So thank you very much for joining us all today. So I'm Ashley Stewart. I'm a senior consultant at Optimat and I'm managing the Location Data Scotland network. So we're really excited to welcome you all along today and to run this event in partnership with Travel Tech for Scotland. It's going to be a great event. We're looking at unlocking the potential of location data for travel and tourism. So in terms of some basic kind of housekeeping, could I ask everyone to turn off their microphones just to keep on mute? As I say, we are recording the session, so we want to keep the background noise to a minimum for when we share the recording. We will also ask you all to utilise the chat box functionality, so use that to briefly introduce your business, explain a wee bit about what you want to achieve by being part of the event this morning, and give us a flavour of the types of connections that you're interested in making. We will have a dedicated Q&A and discussion section on the agenda, so we'll save all the questions for that point in the morning. But I would ask that you drop your comments and questions into the chat box, and one of the team will raise that with the relevant speaker when we get to that section of the agenda. So just to give you an overview and a bit of a flavour of what to expect from this morning. So I'll get things kicked off by giving an overview of Location Data Scotland, explaining a wee bit more about the network and its aims and objectives and how we can help your organisation and how you can get involved. Josh will then do a similar presentation and explain a bit more around the Travel Tech for Scotland network. And then we'll move into really kind of exploring and demystifying location data for the travel and tourism sector. And Bruce will give some examples of potential applications for the sector as well. And then we'll move on to hearing from some really exciting companies that are already using location data to deliver products and services. And as I said, we'll have the opportunity after that to have a Q&A and a wider discussion. The intention is that we'll close things off by 12ish today. So without further ado, I'll get started and give you an overview of Location Data Scotland. So just to give a bit of background, as I say, I'm Ashley Stewart. I'm a consultant at Optimat. So Optimat are strategy consultants and we work with clients to help them to generate wealth by exploiting new technologies and markets. So we've been working with, and myself in particular, has been working with the Scottish Government and Scottish Enterprise for the last sort of 10 to 12 years on the data side of things, really kind of trying to explore and understand how Scotland can exploit the data opportunity. So back in 2019, we carried out a geospatial consultation. And at that point, we were really just looking to test the water to see if there was an appetite to develop a geospatial cluster. And needless to say, yes, there was. And that's why we find ourselves here now managing the Location Data Scotland network. So the 2019 consultation revealed that Scotland's got really quite a healthy geospatial sector, but lots of the activities happening in silos, so it's quite a fragmented ecosystem. So there was this real need to encourage greater cooperation across the sector, and that's ultimately what Location Data Scotland is trying to do. We're trying to pull together these disparate stakeholders and activities to really kind of develop this more holistic community for geospatial. So the project is funded jointly by Scottish Enterprise, the Geospatial Commission and Scottish Government. So we're funded for 2 years. We kicked the project off at the end of October last year and had our launch event in March of this year. So we're just really about the kind of six month mark. So really excited to kind of be getting things up and off the ground now. So in terms of the network itself, it's very much a network that's looking to be inclusive. We want to help and work with organisations across Scotland. The aim of the network is really to help you to unlock the value of location data, and we'll do that by connecting, informing and facilitating collaboration, and that's between industry, academia, public and third sectors. As I say, the 2019 consultation revealed that there's lots of things happening across each of those, but it's about coming together now collectively to get a better understanding together of how we can unlock the value of location data. So we're working across a whole range of sectors, and we want to work with you to help drive innovation and unlock skills and enable economic growth. So the whole purpose of the network is really, as I say, to leverage location data as an enabler, so an enabler of innovation, but also as a driver for creating new products and services that can be delivered both, as I say, from a public and a private perspective. So we're really here to kind of help drive innovation through location data. But what is location data? I'll only very briefly touch upon this because Bruce will go into a whole lot more detail, but I just want to kind of give this kind of high level overview. So the Geospatial Commission, as part of their strategy, kind of determined that location data is very much this umbrella term. It's any data that has a location element. So it's a record of what we do and where we do it. Is very much this geographic location of people and objects, and that can be air, ground, sea. So as I say, Bruce will go into a whole lot more detail on that. So I won't kind of steal the thunder there, but I just wanted to kind of touch upon it at the outset. So the benefits of getting involved in location data, as I say, we're here to help organisations. We want to enable collaboration and innovation. We want to help you to find new customers and develop new products and services and drive economic growth for your organisations and for Scotland more broadly. Again, it's very much this inclusive community. We want to work with any organisation, regardless of what stage or level of experience you have from a data perspective. That's the whole purpose of Location Data Scotland, is about working together to demystify location data. And we want to really raise awareness of the insights that data holders and data processors can bring to a whole range of sectors. And one of the main benefits of being part of the Location Data Scotland community is that we can facilitate connections and introductions, and we can signpost you to relevant suppliers and support and funding opportunities. So there's almost kind of two sides to the types of connections that we can help your organisation make. On the one side, we've very much taken this network approach to develop Location Data Scotland. So we're working in partnership with a whole range of stakeholders, including Travel Tech for Scotland in the case of today's event, but we're also working really closely with the innovation centres and with some of the trade organisations, including AGI Scotland, and Bruce will touch upon that in more detail and explain a wee bit more about what they do and how they can help. But really this kind of stakeholder network approach, we can tie you into these organisations and signpost you to many of them, as I say, for support, whether that's for funding support, whether that's for intelligence support. We can facilitate those connections. But the other side of the connections is really about bringing together demand and supply. So we can help you identify new customers, or we can help you to identify suppliers of location data. So we've just recently launched our benchmark survey. We launched that at the end of May, and that baseline survey is really all about kind of enabling us to develop this geospatial capability directory for Scotland, and that will really be an enabler for us to do that signposting and really to add value and facilitate and enable the connections and introductions that we aim to achieve through Location Data Scotland. So I would really encourage you all to get involved. As I say, the survey's launched. We'll share the link to the survey in the chat box. But we also have a really active LinkedIn group. We've got over 270 members within the Location Data Scotland group. They're from a whole cross-sectoral representatives, and we've also got multinational and international contacts in there as well. So it's a great opportunity within the LinkedIn group. We share lots of resources in there, whether that's kind of links to market intelligence, to other events that are taking place, to job and recruitment opportunities. So it's a really active group, and I would encourage you all to join that and get involved. We also have our website and we have our Twitter, so I would encourage you all to kind of get involved through those mechanisms. So what have we been doing? As I say, we kicked off just at the end of October last year. So we've established a LinkedIn group. We've already engaged with more than 90 organisations, and we've presented and taken part in a number of conferences and webinars. We've also recently signed a strategic alliance with Code Clan, so we're keen to kind of explore the skills side of things, how we can enable skills development within location data. And as I say, we're also working with a range of local and international partners. We've also got our advisory group up and running now, so that's been formed, and again, it's a very inclusive advisory group. We've got representation from a range of sectors, including travel and tourism. And today's event is really the first of our demand sector focused events, so we've got lots more planned. Again, all of that will be shared in the LinkedIn group when we've got up and coming events, so we'll share all that with you. The major milestone for Location Data Scotland is the launch of the baseline survey. That's really the kind of starting point of us to kind of really get this holistic understanding of the capabilities in Scotland and to enable these introductions and collaboration. So we've got lots of exciting activities planned. There's much more to come. So please do get involved. We're more than delighted to welcome you all today, and really keen to work with you and support you in the data journey of exploring location data. So just to summarise, because I'm keen to kind of get on to the other speakers. Location data is a geospatial community. It's inclusive. We want to work with you to unlock the value of location data. We want to enable connections and collaborations and introductions. These will help you to kind of drive innovation within your organisations, to unlock skills, to meet new customers, to develop new products and services, and really to enable economic growth for your organisation. So, as I said, I'm really, really excited to be working with our network partners, Travel Tech for Scotland today, and with all of you within the Travel Tech community. So let's get things kicked off and explore the applications of location data for Scotland. So the first speaker we've got is Josh. So Josh will give an overview of Travel Tech for Scotland. Again, I would just kind of flag the housekeeping. Can everyone turn off their microphones, and please use the chat to introduce yourselves and to share comments and questions as the morning progresses. So Josh, I'll stop presenting now and hand over to you.
Yep, thank you very much. I'm just going to start sharing my slides, so just bear with me 1 second. And yeah, thank you again, Ashley, for hosting this great event. I've seen lots of familiar names in the chat function, so looking forward to sharing this event with you all. I'm going to cover a couple of things. One, just very briefly around Travel Tech for Scotland, what we do. Then I'm going to go into sort of the very top level reasons why geospatial data and location data is so important for tourism and travel. And then a few interesting case studies before handing over to the much more interesting speakers who are coming just after me. So first of all, Travel Tech for Scotland. So what we are is we are the equivalent of Location Data Scotland, but for travel technology companies. And our reason for it being is basically supporting any organisation that's trying to use technology in the tourism and travel industry with an ambition to be the cluster, the hub of travel technology in Europe. A very grand and ambitious ambition, but one that we think we can achieve. So when we talk about travel tech, what we are talking about are companies that are using technology, digital technology, in and around the travel and tourism industry. And I like to think about it in sort of customer journey. So all the way from dreaming about traveling, planning, booking, experiencing, being there, and then sharing afterwards. So every bit of technology that fits along that pathway. And why is Scotland well placed for this? Well, we think that it's got all the necessary composite parts. So of course there's Skyscanner, but there's not just Skyscanner. There's loads of other fantastic travel tech companies that have been around for 10, 15 years. Travel tech, there's some new ones like Crichton. I know Julie Grieve, the CEO's in the audience today as well. We've got a growing technology sector more broadly, including the wonderful and amazing location data network that encompasses businesses and academia, which we're talking about in terms of world-class technology research in Scotland, and also Scotland's an amazing tourism destination, one that sadly will be underutilized this year, but hopefully we can start bouncing back. So the main thing is we're already a travel tech cluster. We're building it, but it's already here. We know of over 120 companies that are travel tech focused just in Scotland, and many of these are fast growing. Some are new startups, and some are very well established. And just to give you a sense of what that opportunity is, if you look at some of the figures in terms of investment in travel tech, you can already see here there's some significant sums. In the top left-hand corner here are some of the biggest in London-based, and the investment just in the last year, and then a huge investment, as you can see, globally. So it's something that we think that Scotland should be grasping that huge opportunity. So one of the key things we did when we started was setting up our travel tech directory. So it's where we put in all of the Scottish and international travel tech companies that we knew about, put them into a very clear space on using Airtable, and then working off the great work of Karen Gidland and Megan McCurran, who created the Digital Tourism Toolkit. We turned it into a resource that tourism businesses and others can use to identify and find the travel tech company that they may want to use. And within that, there's a lot of great companies that draw upon location data. So just very quickly, why is location data relevant for tourism and travel? Well, it's kind of obvious, because if you're a tourist or if you're traveling, then you are experiencing a journey or discovering a journey through different space. You're going from place to place, experiencing different points of interest. Whether you're in a city, going from the museum to the restaurant to the gallery or whatever it is, or whether you are in rural spaces trying to undertake amazing different adventure journeys, you're always traveling, you're always going from place to place. And that is exactly what location data is all about. So now I'm just going to go through a few examples of the great Scottish and international companies that are using location data as a key part of what they do. So the first one I'm going to mention is Waterfalls. So Waterfalls, who just recently won the Scottish Edge Award, they do fantastic travel apps, and they do one in North Coast 500, in the south of Scotland, along the A9 corridor, in Stirling and elsewhere. But the one I'm going to focus on is the Mara map, which is a new one that they're doing with West Coast Waters. And I really recommend you checking it out because it looks beautiful and it is it's just really cool. So what they've done here, this is the map just highlighting the lighthouses on the west coast of Scotland. And they have basically mapped out all of the key features that you would ever need if you're visiting the West Coast, including where you can spot whales, as you can see here. So it also has all the facilities and that you would ever need undertaking a visit. My favorite part is this one, which has all the sites for dolphins across and around Skye and the islands on the West Coast. So a beautiful map. And they're doing some really wonderful work in location data. So I recommend checking out Waterfalls, and I certainly recommend checking out the Mara map. Now, of course, whenever you talk about location data, you're going to talk about What 3 Words, a huge success story in geospatial innovation. And what I put here is my favourite tourist attraction for where I'm from, around Grimsby and Cleethorpes. This is the pier. I certainly recommend you holidaying in Scotland, but if you can't go to Scotland, you should definitely go to Cleethorpes. And why are What 3 Words particularly important for tourism and travel? Well, there's a few reasons, really. I think one of them is, of course, that you can get to a level of specificity that is really well suited for tourism. So if you're going to an Airbnb and you want to find the specific key box, or whether you want to meet someone in a busy environment, or an environment that might be quite confusing, then a What 3 Words location is really, really good way of doing it. And the great thing about it is that it's obviously free of charge. You can put it on the website to have it as your location for your hotel or attraction. And it's very easy to use. And we've seen so many amazing use cases for What 3 Words in tourism. And I recommend checking out their website for that as well. Now, a couple I'm going to mention here have come out of the fantastic Geospatial Accelerator, so Walks and Waterfalls. I'm not sure Oscar is on the call, but I certainly recommend checking this out. This app is not yet out there, but it's coming soon. And what they've done is they've taken an old book that explores waterfalls of Scotland, and they've mapped them and created these wonderful walks that will take you to experience these waterfalls across Scotland. Many off the beaten track, many will be undiscovered. So it's a great little product, and there's a lot of interesting games and ways of competing to see how many waterfalls you can bag. And so I certainly recommend checking that out. Another one, and I think Elaine, Elaine Ford, who's the founder of Electric Explorer, is on the call. She has created a wonderful little company in the early stages of trying to map and explore where electrical vehicle charging points are and help people who are trying to explore the whole of Scotland using an electric vehicle without having the range anxiety. So it's doing some really great stuff. This is an early picture I've seen of the map that's going on. With the new website that Electric Explorer is setting up. But the really great thing about this is it's sustainable tourism. It is trying to get people to explore and understand Scotland in a way that is reducing, is hitting our net zero targets, and doing so incentivizing some of that sustainable behavior. So I certainly recommend checking that out. They're an absolutely wonderful company. Now, going further afield, one of the big areas of location data is, of course, satellite information and satellite data. So this is being used in some travel and tourism use cases as well. Flockio are a French company. I'm meeting with them next week, and they're doing some really interesting work to understand the impact of tourism and travel on environmental change. So they're a really interesting company, certainly worth checking out. And one of the projects that I've been very, very fortunate to be involved with is with the great team at EDINA, based at the University of Edinburgh, who have an awful lot of amazing location data skills. And what we did is we were working with East Lothian Council. One of the problems they had last year was that it was so busy because everyone wanted to go to East Lothian's beaches because you couldn't go anywhere else, but also because East Lothian beaches are amazing. So what we have started to do is we put some sensors, we're starting to implement some sensors on the beaches, and the team at EDINA are doing some great work to actually map out and understand the busyness to shape and influence the behaviour both of the visitors so that they visit the places that are less busy, but also the people working at East Lothian Council and other enforcement authorities to influence that the behaviour of visitors, but also so that they can influence behaviours as well. So here's just an early look, the first look of some of the work that EDINA are doing. They're mapping out and all of the different beaches. They are starting to put indicators of how busy these places are and wonderfully provide routes to the next best location that might be less busy. So it's mapping IoT, understanding the data for how busy these places are, and then helping guide people through a process of trying to experience East Lothian's beaches in the best way. There's also this interface going back to the council itself, which will help them understand and influence how people use the site. So a great little project and a great location data project. You may have also seen that Visit Scotland have been doing some great new maps. This is the Outlander map. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I think there's more to hear about Outlander later, which we all love. And they've been taking advantage of the public sector geospatial agreement, which allows access to ordnance survey work. So if there's any public sector organisations, I recommend looking at checking that out. And some other work that I'm doing with some academics within the University of Edinburgh is mapping festival events, festival tickets, to try and understand where events take place in Edinburgh and how that relates to the different neighbourhoods in Edinburgh. So the main thing to focus on is how important location data is for a connected journey. One of the things we're all trying to aspire in travel tech is being able to connect people to all the different components in a seamless, simple way that is also sustainable. So that's my time up. So I'm going to end there. I'm really looking forward to hearing from Bruce coming up next, and also two fantastic travel tech companies, Hooli and Geotourist, who will come after Bruce. So thank you ever so much for listening to me.
Great, thanks very much, Josh. That was excellent, and it's good to hear that there's lots of different examples of location data, because actually the message that we're trying to get across is that there's a whole range of applications, and I know that Bruce will touch upon those in much more detail within his presentation. So Bruce, I'll hand over to you if you're ready to share your slides.
That's great. Hopefully everyone can see my slides. Thank
Yes.
you very much indeed for the invite, Ashley. Thanks, Josh, for the introduction. Gosh, you've been building me up in terms of having an awful lot to do in 15 minutes. So let me have a go in giving you a brief resume of some of the joys of locational, spatial data, geographical data, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to concentrate just on one application. I'm going to talk about something that I've been very involved with called the Gazetteer for Scotland, and just show how data within that is a little bit different, but can be used in different ways. So that's what I'm intending to do this morning, and I hope you enjoy it. So if I click on the right slide, there we go. Apologies, first few slides a bit graphical. Spatial data, locational data 101. So not too graphical, but they'll get a little bit more graphical as we go on. So what is location? Well, it's a lot of things. It can be a point in a sat nav, GPS, Google Maps, things we're familiar with, but also an address, a postcode, place name, map preference, a coordinate of some description. We've heard about what 3 words, so there are other non-traditional systems in terms of describing location. It can be an arbitrary or an informal reference, the corner of my street, near my hotel, or even inside a building. We don't talk an awful lot about inside locations, but that's important if you're looking for a particular exhibit in a museum, for example. You need internal locations within buildings. So locations can be all manner of things, and sometimes not quite as expected. The important issues are that you have a location, your customers have a location, your services have a reach, but location can change with time. It can change rather subtly. It can change rather drastically. Multiple things can be found or happen at one location, so that adds another degree of complexity. And it's always worth bearing in mind Waldo Tobler's first law of geography: near things are more related. So as we go further away, the relationship often breaks down. So that's another important one. So that's a very brief introduction to location. Why is location important to tourists? Well, tourists are individuals, as we've seen in terms of some of the examples that Josh has already presented, that some tourists want very specific experiences. So we have to tailor our information to that particular individual. Tourists are also obviously mobile. It may be mobile within a city. They may be doing a city break. They may be wanting to jump on a tour bus in Edinburgh or walk around Perth. But they're also very time constrained, and they have a very clear idea of what they want to do. So bringing all of that together, it gives us actually quite a complex locational problem. So whether based in Edinburgh or Edzell, tourists will want things like transportation, accommodation, food, attractions, maybe formal tourist attractions where you pay at the door and you go in and see something. But often tourists will simply want to see your castles or particular types of architecture. Or other things that we can't even begin to imagine, often very, very specific. They may simply want pretty places. Josh has talked about beaches, mountain scenery, nice viewpoints and so on. And of course, then there's retail therapy. Who doesn't mind a bit of retail therapy? Again, distance is important. So a tourist may be based, a weekend break based in one hotel in Edinburgh, for example. They will want to see things within probably walking distance or maybe a taxi ride of their particular hotel. But they may have a rather complicated series of points they want to visit. Going from Edinburgh to Perth to Inverness, Urquhart Castle, down the Great Glen, the standard tourist route around Scotland, in which case, often if they're driving, they'll want to visit particular things as they go along and find out about those less known attractions. Everybody wants to find something interesting that hasn't got 1,000 other people out there at the same time. The other important thing is, as well as distance, is time, and we'd have to think about time and location together. Geography is dependent on time as well as location. Examples there might be opening hours. You don't want to turn up at a shop or a castle when it's closed. How long do you actually need to explore that particular location? So there's a duration. You may have seen a wonderful photograph of a great beach at sunset. So you want to be there at sunset to absorb that experience. And we've also held about waterfalls. There's no point in tracking maybe several miles across a moorland to find this amazing waterfall if we haven't had any rain all summer and actually there's just a trickle of water coming down the waterfalls. So again, river levels are important in terms of the time criticalness experience of being at a particular location. Route making and navigation may be very complicated. As I say, if somebody is moving around, or a family are moving around Scotland, how do we actually build that particular route so they gain the experiences they want to gain? The obvious way for many of us is maps, but actually some people just don't work with maps. You know, I've got some very intelligent friends who are just not spatially aware, and they can't cope with the map. They hold it upside down, they get completely confused with it, and they need a rather more specific direction. So that's why, for example, Google Maps gives you a map, but it also gives you directions in terms of getting to your particular location. And clearly, if we're adding attractions that may involve different transportational options, so you may drive to a particular point, you may then have to walk to experience a particular feature, then building that route, building that navigation can be quite complicated. So we've got drives that have been mentioned, the North Coast 500, very popular, unfortunately taking great chunks of Scotland that I used to experience by myself, are now very, very busy, but such is life, that's great. There are forest drives in the southwest of Scotland that are not very well known, that are great experiences, often with castles and so on very nearby that you want to experience as part of that. Thematic tours, we've already heard about Outlander, Harry Potter walking tours of Edinburgh. So there are different scales. Your walking tours of Edinburgh, Outlander primarily sort of central and near Highlands, the Jacobites, great tracts of Scotland that you might want to explore if you've got interest in Jacobite history. Queen Victoria, again, if you're interested in where Queen Victoria went, great tracts of Scotland that can be attached there. And we also have to think about tours that have special needs. If you're bound to a wheelchair, for example, your ability to experience some of these areas and features and so on may be very different. The route making may have to be put together in a different way, and so on. So all of this comes together to make location, geography, and the sorts of things that we do potentially quite complicated. So what do we need? Well, here's a bit of a needs list. Ubiquitous 4G data. Broadband Scotland are doing a great job, but there are still great tracts of Scotland where you can't get your connectivity. And if you're based on an app, as many of the examples we'll hear today are, how do you deal with that app if you're away from the mobile phone mast? So that's being improved. We need these location-based services. We're not interested in, much less interested these days in a tourist guide that tells us about the whole country. We want something very specific to the location that we happen to be at. And we also want all these services to be connected. This is a theme I'll come back to just in a second. We've got some great resources in Scotland, but we need them to be connected together, so somebody doesn't have to look up umpteen different apps, umpteen different websites, that the information can all be accessed to whichever app or website you go into. You can get to the other ones. You can get to that other information that gives you the complete tourist experience. So they need to be linked. They need to be linked in a usable manner. What these resources all have in common is location and geography. So that, to me, is the great linkage that brings all of this together. So geographical information is not just about location, it's the what as well as the where. So where is it, but what is there? And as I say, there can be multiple things at the same place. There can be a historic building, there can be a museum, there can be all manner of things at the same physical location. And what I've done over the years is to use the concept of a gazetteer, and I'll define what that is in a second, as a means of connecting services, but also providing geographical description that possibly gets us around the map problem, where people are not happy using maps necessarily. It gives us a description of a particular location with a lot of context and history and so on as well. So what's a gazetteer? A gazetteer is simply a thing, a geographical dictionary, as they're sometimes called, that links place names with locations, with descriptions, and provides linked data. So allows us to connect all of these various components that I've mentioned together. Let me talk about the Gazetteer for Scotland, because that's one that I've developed. It's a database, it's a website, it's a definitive list of place names, it's a description of Scotland that deals with settlements, with features, with tourist attractions, brings also in, which are not traditionally part of a gazetteer, famous people and families and clans, because you can't talk about Scotland without talking about the people that relate to landscapes and places, and the families and the clans and the family history that connects to these. Everything is linked together. It provides an alternative to guidebooks. As I say, guidebooks are great, but they tend to be rather general. And I think we're finding now that people want rather more specific information about their particular location, or where they're going to go, or where they want to visit. I've got a lot of entries, a lot of words, a lot of photos. That's the website. You can look it up afterwards. But let me just give you a flavour of what's included in that, and also some of the things we've done that are not publicly available. So we have contemporary descriptions of thousands and thousands of places around Scotland. We also have these linked to historical information sourced from something called Groom's Gazetteer, a 19th century document. So you can see what something looked like 120 years ago, as well as what it looks like today. There's a typical entry, so Cousland in Midlothian, a little bit of text, a photograph, and critically giving us these linkages. So it's not just about the information that I hold, it's signposting the information that other people hold. So taking us into Historic Scotland, actually now 2 branches of Historic Environment Scotland, what was Historic Scotland and what was the Royal Commission on the Ancient Historic Monuments of Scotland. So they have great information. I don't want to go to the front page of their websites. I want to go to the information they've got in this place called Cousland. So why can't we do that? Well, we can do that because we can do that on the basis of location. So gazetteers allow us to link information together, whether it be restaurants, whether it be tourist attractions, whether it be accommodation, whether it be banking services, emergency services, finding out about the canals that we might want to take a barge on, water quality on beaches. Great information in Scotland. Is it linked together? No, it's not. And that's part of our challenge. And as I say, that's where geography allows us to liberate these resources from their silos and link them together. Gazetteer for Scotland, surprise, surprise, has lots of maps in it. That's just an example for central Edinburgh with a sort of idea of the density of some of the information that we hold. It's a growing resource. I've been working on it for 25 years. It's like the Forth Bridge. It's going to continue for my lifetime and much longer, but it's great fun. It gives me a really good excuse to go and explore Scotland, which is fantastic. You can do interesting searches. So I can say, well, I'm interested in castles, domestic buildings, castles. I'm interested in castles in Angus. So what can I do with these? Well, I can put them on a map. So it will build a dynamic map just showing me where all these castles are. It's a very simple map. Actually, this is something that was designed by one of my students about 20 years ago now. So it was a very early example of a dynamic map, but it's simple and people like it. So we've kind of kept it. You can do family maps because of all this information is linked together, that places are linked to families. You can say, well, my surname is MacDonald. Where are all the places I should visit that have a connection with MacDonald? And that's fantastic for a tourist. So it will build a map for you and show you where all these places are around Scotland. You can see some very interesting patterns relating to old clan territories and so on. But equally well, you can build an itinerary. You can start building this route of places that you might want to go and examine. You can wander through time. So because we've got temporal information along with our locational information, I can automatically out of my database generate timelines. And these timelines are quite detailed. So I've broken them up there by century approximately. If we go to the latter part of the 19th century, you can see that in every year actually I have a lot of events because and a lot of things that have happened because I've recorded these dates along with my locational information. So it's remarkably dense. It always amazes me as I add information, they automatically pops up on these timelines exactly what we've got here. Another thing we've done that's experimental is to actually build a tourist guide. So I'm going to Perth. I want a tourist guide for Perth. You can't really buy a tourist guide for Perth off the shelf, but given a database of useful information, we can build one. This is version 1. We're experimenting with version 2 of these tourist guides, but I'll show you version 1 for the moment. Nice cover page. Yeah, let's have a contents page, exactly like a tourist guide, an introductory paragraph about or 2 about Perth with a nice location map, a few nice photographs, a more detailed map. That we can break into, that we can then look at the centre of Perth, we can see where particular tourist attractions are, and then each of these are then described sometimes in a lot of detail, in the case of St John's Kirk, sometimes in rather less detail. So we can wander through this guide, we can find out about famous people that are associated with Perth, we can find out about famous events, historical events that are associated with Perth. We've got some further reading, so it draws all of that out of the database as well and assembles it together. particular, and then an index, because clearly it's a book and we want to be able to find the information easily, so let's move it and have an alternative to the web production of this information into something that can be produced as a book, or actually we produce them as PDF. So if you want to print it off, you can print it off. If you just want to keep it on your mobile device and carry it around with you without the need to be connected to the internet, because you downloaded it before you set off on your journey or the morning before, then that's great. So that's really kind of what I want to say. I just want to end with a mention. Ashley introduced the Association for Geographic Information, geospatial network of people interested in location and how we use locational information, and how we use locational information better, and how we leverage more value from the economy by using locational information. I'm chair of Association for Geographic Information in Scotland. Very happy to talk to people about that. We run a very successful annual event that Ashley gets involved with as well. We also have periodic seminars on interesting topics where we bring speakers in from around the country and indeed around the world. And we're working closely with Location Data Scotland on a whole manner of things. So AGI's website is there too. That has been rather a rushed view. It's really I haven't gone into the level of detail, I'm afraid, that was promised by those who introduced me. But I hope I've given you a bit of a flavour of some of the things you can do and some of the really exciting things that locational information allow us. And I think there's so much potential there, yeah, it's great, and I'm very glad to be part of today's event, because I'm seeing new and interesting and exciting things that are enthusing me as to the power of location. That's it. Thank you very much indeed.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. That was fantastic. Thank you, Bruce. I think that just gives it was a whirlwind presentation, but I think it just demonstrates the potential of location data, and there's huge enthusiasm in the chat for the Gazetteer as well. So you'll have lots to follow up with post event. So we'll keep you busy. Josh, I'll hand over to you if you want to introduce the companies that we've got joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much, Bruce. That was incredible. I suspect you'll get a big uptick in viewing your website and your information there, because I was writing down the name. I think it looked absolutely fantastic, and also a really amazing demonstrator as why geospatial and location data is just essential to tourism, and especially tourism technology. So now what I'm going to do is introduce two fantastic travel tech companies that are using geospatial data in really exciting and innovative ways. And I hope that you'll all really thoroughly enjoy this next section. So first of all, I'm going to introduce Stephen Owens. I know Stephen will be trying to get his slides set up now, I think, and so I'll let him do that just to introduce. So Stephen Owens has founded a fantastic company called Huli, H-U-L-I, that are doing cycle routing, which is something particularly useful in Scotland as we all try and experience the amazing sights that Scotland has to see. So without me going on any longer, Stephen, I'll hand over to you.
So I might actually just have to leave and re-enter, because in order to share my screen, I have to give my computer some special permissions. So do you want to give me 2 seconds, or do you want to go with the next speaker and then I'll jump on after?
Well, Sharon, are you okay to jump in early and go ahead first?
It'll probably only take me 2 seconds, so it's up to you.
I'm happy to wait, or go.
Well, I'm really good at filling time, so Stephen is going to jump out. It's one of my secret skills. You can ask any of my family or friends. Now, I think just going back to you, Bruce, just as one of the questions that came up, which you may have a chance to answer, just as waiting for Stephen, was from Paul, and he asked around whether you'd ever done anything matching what three words and your Gazette.
Well, it's very easy, because I haven't, but it's very, very easy because, of course, what three words matches to a latitude, longitude location or some other kind of location. Once you've got that, you can then simply map on, using your Gazetteer technology, you simply map on to the places that we hold. So as long as you know whatever spatial referencing system you use, you can then translate that into a point on the ground, and you can translate that back. One thing that we have done is to produce a sort of what we call short form Gazetteer, which is just that lookup for Scotland as a part of a project for the Scottish Government. So government has access to what we think is the most definitive list of place names in Scotland. There is an Ordnance Survey Gazetteer, but it's not very good. So Scottish Government a few years ago commissioned us to make that sort of short form Gazetteer, which exactly provides that linkage. So I'm very happy to talk to anybody who wants to link resources together, because I think that's really, really crucial. I think we can all benefit from each other. Too much people are sitting in their silos thinking, oh no, I'm providing information to my particular users, but it's so much better to be able to spread the users around from one website to another, because you'll get back as many as you spread. So it's a win-win situation.
Oh, that's yeah, no, it's like I said, I think my evening plans are now digging deep into the Gazetteer around my favourite
Yeah,
place.
totally.
I'm now going to hand it over to Stephen. Stephen, are you ready to go?
Yeah, just tell me if you can see those slides.
Yes, we can at the moment. Fantastic.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, well, thanks for that, and sorry for the little technical hiccup. It's classic presentation, isn't it? Yeah, so I'll start with an example. So I'd say, imagine you've arrived somewhere in rural Scotland on your holiday. If you're a cyclist, then you've probably packed your bike and you're ready to go, and you want to get out for a ride to see the best of the area, so including cafes and tourism hotspots. You want a route that matches your fitness and guarantees that you'll be back in time for lunch. What do you do? So I'm Steve Owens, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Huli. And as a keen cyclist, I've faced this problem many times, and I know I'm not the only one. So what is Huli? Well, no matter where you are, you can simply open Huli and ask it to automatically create you the best cycling route in an area, so on or off road, based on exactly what you want. As an example, you can just ask for a 1 hour route anywhere. In a few seconds and clicks, you'll be good to go. So in the background, it's using your live location in the app to determine where you are, and then processing millions of historical open source location data records in order to create the best cycling routes. In effect, it's turning anywhere into a cycling hotspot. Once it's actually created a route, it tells you where the hills are and the different surface types that you're going to experience on or off road. And it also keeps you informed if there are any busy roads along the way. And then finally, it can navigate you using your real-time location data to ensure that you never get lost. So I know that here that we have a wide audience from a lot of different sectors, and I wanted to list a few ways that I think Huli may be interesting or helpful to you. So if you're in the tourism sector, then Huli can be used to promote your area as a cycling hotspot, as I've said. With Huli, there's no reliance on hand-curated routes or printed guides that take a lot of time and resource to put together. Everything is self-contained within the app, and we create routes on the fly for any fitness ability and requirements on demand. So effectively, if someone's arriving in your area, you can simply say, well, use the Huli app and you will be able to create the best cycling routes in this area. And they'll suit your fitness or ability. And if you're an employer looking to encourage cycling for both either employee well-being or sustainability, looking to move your business into a sort of carbon neutral stance, then Huli is also perfect, because we create the best routes for either commutes or leisure, and their users can keep track of their progress within the app. So it allows them to track their sustainability. So, for example, we track, what the carbon offset is they're creating by using their bike. And we've even developed an urban-specific profile to help users move through urban environments in the safest way possible. Similarly, if you're a local authority looking to promote active travel, then Huli is also useful, because our route creator, like the basic route creator, is actually free to use, and it helps, as I said, users move through busy environments too. And off the back of this, we're actually generating a lot of really interesting data insights to where people are traveling to and from, and the kind of routes and cycling routes that they're actually wanting to do. So from a tourism point of view, you can use this as marketing insights to promote a certain area, or from a local authority point of view, then you can use it to understand where better cycling infrastructure could be placed. And just off the back of what Bruce was saying there, it's really interesting to just understand how we can associate time with location. And one thing that we're looking to do is build time into that system. So if people are looking for routes, then we can start to ask them, when are you looking to do this route? And that might help forecast demand for where they might be in particular areas. So ultimately, we're a startup, so we're relatively new in our journey. We've just released, we've got a web app that's been up and running for a while, but we've not really promoted it. And we've just released our first beta app for testing on iOS, and the Android one will be following soon. In June, we'll be launching the app across the full UK to effectively go to market. But we're building Huli as a platform for cyclists to meet all their cycling needs. And we want to work with partners from tourism providers to coffee shops to bike shops, making it easy for our users to find you. As an example, one of the features that we're currently testing is the iconic cafe ride. So if you're a cyclist, you'll probably have been on many cafe rides, but a user can simply ask Huli for a cafe ride, and we'll automatically create a route that takes in the best cafe in the area, no matter where they are. So if, for example, you're a cycling-friendly cafe, then the perfect opportunity for you to promote yourself as a cycling-friendly cafe could be through the Huli platform. And the same applies to local tourism hotspots or bike shops for when users need some maintenance, for example, for their bike. So, I mean, short and sweet from me, but if you are interested in having a discussion, then please drop me a message and I would love to chat. And if you are interested in actually testing out our new beta app, then if you head over to huli.life, you'll see a section called Trailblazers, and that's where you can sign up. And if you're on iOS, then you'll get the link straight away. If you're on Android, you'll have to wait a little bit while we fix some bugs. And that's me.
Thanks so much, Stephen. I've just downloaded it. I feel really bad. I should have downloaded it actually ages ago. But
that's all good. That's all good.
It sounds like it's going really, really well. And I'm sure and I see already there's a lot of questions coming in. So we're going to come to those questions after the next talk, and then everyone will be able to get a chance to ask you questions, ask Sharon questions, and also ask Bruce questions. So thanks again. So now I'm going to hand over to Sharon, from the CEO and founder of GeoTourist. Now, I know Sharon really well. We've met many times. I'm really, really delighted and to be able to give Sharon the opportunity to speak to everyone. There's some fantastic work that GeoTourist are doing in Scotland, but across the world. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I know that you'll hear that directly from him. So, Sharon, I'm going to ask you to share your screen, although Stephen, you might need to get rid of your screen first. However beautiful that scenery is.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Right. Hi, everyone. I mean, I was going to start with a couple of questions just to put in the back of your mind as I start. The first question is of the audience, because I had a quick look at the people in the audience, but I wanted to understand of the people in the audience, how many of you support visitors? Because there's a bit of a broad spectrum of people in the audience. And of the people who support visitors, how many of you measure impact of destination marketing on visitor numbers? And then do these insights inform how you invest future destination marketing and management spend? So those are the two questions. Have a think. I don't know technically whether you'd raise a hand in the box or just put a message in the comments box, but just have a think about that as I get my presentation up. Share. There we go. Can you see my screen?
We can, yeah.
Excellent. Okay, well, okay. So, I'm as Josh said, I'm Shaun Tulugda. I am CEO and co-founder of GeoTourist, and we are building an audio map of the world. You can think of us as a personal guide which stays with you wherever you go, connecting you with user-generated stories told by locals, organisations, and even the odd celebrity here and there. And basically, it stays with you in your pocket, or it's always ready to take you on a journey through storytelling at the touch of a button.
Sharon, we can't see your slides yet.
Oh, can you not?
No, we can just see the folder.
Oh, right. Oh, because I shared the wrong thing. All right, let's see. How am I?
And his bank account, Josh.
Right,
yeah.
There should be a bar somewhere on here. Do you know what it is? It's because I have got it on presentation mode. So let me.
It's the classic. I think this is the first time I've ever shared a presentation correctly on the first time.
Okay, so let's stop sharing. Forgive me, everyone. You wouldn't think about a tech company. Hang on. Is that better? Hang on. PowerPoint.
Yeah, it looks like it's coming up now.
There we go. All right, how about now?
It looks like it's just loading.
Okay. It's I can see it on my side, but then that's no good to you guys. Loading. Anyone? Yeah, no. I've got a stop presenting button here, so I'm guessing that it should happen at some point.
Yeah, it looks like it's loading. It's just taking the spinning disk.
Okay. Buffering.
Yeah.
If my face is frozen, I can go and grab a cup of tea. Shall I do that classic stop and start again?
Yeah, probably best.
Okay. Stop and all right. Include system audio. PowerPoint slideshow. Okay, all right, brace yourself, guys. Okay.
Yes, hurrah, fantastic.
Okay. Well, hopefully you've remembered all what I've just said, but welcome. So we have been called the YouTube of Audio Guides by Simon Calder, and that was actually in the Scottish Tourism Alliance signature event in 2019, just before things went pop. Yes, we've also got, we're very proud to have the Safe Travels stamp, which is basically a badge for COVID-19 safe travels, to help visitors understand that they can guide themselves safely and confidently without worrying about catching anything in the ether. So basically, the challenge we are addressing is about storytelling. We're a storytelling platform, and we believe that every town, every place, every community has great stories and great storytellers. But how do you share these stories with the world? And how do we help destinations harness their best stories and storytellers and learn which are actually bringing in visitors? So we need a win-win-win for storytellers, visitors, and destinations. So our platform supports 3 key groups in a fragmented travel ecosystem. For users, we need a free, seamless solution that stays with the travelers wherever they go. For storytellers, we need a simple no-tech solution to create, preserve, and share authentic stories. And destinations currently have no universal way to measure what inspires people to travel or how to encourage them to explore more of the destinations beyond their hotspots. So you can see there's some typical problems, and some of these have already been mentioned by Bruce and Steve and Josh. But there's a fragmented ecosystem with lots and lots of apps, so it's very difficult for people to find what they might be looking for. A lot of the story content is paid, and we know that from our user feedback that that's a barrier. And also different demographics, so international tourists coming in. One of the key challenges that they face if they don't speak English is obviously language. From the content creator side, you've got a lot of options. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. Anyone who might have already produced an app or produced some kind of technology may, depending on how far they are along in the journey, they may realize that the cost of building an app isn't just building the app, it's about supporting the ongoing growth. There's a statistic which my CTO told me recently, which is the cost of building an app represents 20% of what it will actually take to fulfill the app's life for 5 years. So just bear that in mind as you're kind of embarking on this. I know a lot of destinations raise grant funding to get an app live, but you probably need to consider that when you're putting your applications together. We provide, it's user-generated content, so we have a home for authentic storytelling by people. And then below the destinations, we want to learn what makes people travel. We want to understand who the visitor types are. There's a big challenge of over-tourism in some locations. I mean, it's more of a dispersal problem for others, where they're probably crying out for some of those visitors in those dense hotspots. So the magic happens when you bring all these things together, and destinations and attractions can act on the attribution data that comes from knowing what content is resonating when, where, and with whom. So GeoTourist is a free single global app. It's user-generated content, as I said. It's multilingual. The content can be personalized around the user travels. It's a non-technical platform for creatives, which means that it allows you to access more stories than you might otherwise be able to engage with. We see ourselves as developing a platform to help content creators build their own followings on the platform. And for destinations, we are providing insights to help them understand where, how visitors are inspired to come into their destination. So we measure the reach of the content that is sent across different parts of the world, and then critically see what that turns into in terms of real visits. And because our platform allows people to be very creative with the types of content they put out there, we can measure the engagement through looking at the content that people are looking at, and using this to build a persona or a consumer type to help the destinations and the attractions learn more about who's actually coming in. And then dispersal, one of the things that we do by connecting everything together is we have the opportunity to move people from busy hotspots to otherwise hidden gems around the corner. So GeoTourist helps destinations learn which content brings in visitors using our global platform for self-guided audio tools by uniquely measuring attribution from views to actual visits. One of the things that we've experienced collectively is the pandemic, and we've found that during this time more people are using our platform to send their destinations to the users wherever they are, rather than using it as a in location guide, which is interesting. I mean, our tech always allowed that, but there are some use cases here, like fam trips, where normally you'd have destinations selling their destinations via agents, and the agents would come in and do the fam trips. They're now, some of those destinations are now using GeoTourist to send their locations to the agents, so that they can then sell on the destinations to their customers. There's a few other things we've done here where it's being used as an educational tool. We're measuring what kind of content is being looked at in different places, so that's really interesting. And then ultimately, with all of that intent, we're now integrating a lot of bookability solutions to help people act on that interest in destinations as well. So the experience, like as I said, we're very fortunate to have some famous people in here. I mean, you could have Neil Oliver walk you around the Royal Mile or Stirling or various places around Scotland. And then one of the things we are most proud of is the community storytelling. So up here, some of you may know Invisible Cities. We work with them to kind of share the stories of not just Invisible Cities, but several social enterprises within Edinburgh. And these are the kind of stories that you wouldn't otherwise, you wouldn't find on a typical visitor guide app, for example. So we're really happy to be able to tell those kind of stories. In the US, we've told Black Lives Matter stories and Black history stories. For example, this one in the middle is Emancipation Park, which is based in Houston, and we launched last year on the day that George Floyd was buried, and he was buried in Houston. So there's a lot of significance to having launched that tour. But that tour was about it's something called Juneteenth, which was basically when the emancipation actually happened. So Lincoln declared emancipation he made a declaration, but it was actually 2 years after when actually people that got to hear about it, because there wasn't the internet around. So this tour represents that, the day when people the last person found out about emancipation. So we're very proud about that. So I'm giving you guys an exclusive. We have a product in market. It's been there for a couple of years, and we now are building our next version, which is more interactive, provides a lot more insights for destinations and users to help them to help encourage them develop more better quality content. And here's a sneak preview of our data insights dashboard. But again, it's going to be measuring user activity, feedback, reach, traffic, all sorts. And in terms of the insights or the data points we're most interested in, the things that we're going to be providing to our users, it's essentially how far did your content travel? You know, you're creating a story about your own location, but your story has its own journey. So it's interesting to see how far that reach is. And then what content actually brought those visitors in. So what do people travel for? I know that's there's a few research agencies that build persona types where they put, you know, they do A/B testing with different content, and using our platform, you can send various types of content and actually learn which is actually driving engagement and bringing the people in. Again, same point, what does your consumer look like based on the content that they're engaging with? And then, like I said, because we are connecting places together, one of the unique insights we can learn is where did they go before they arrived at your destination? Often that can be quite useful for maybe partnering with your neighbours or targeting certain marketing efforts. Dwell time per point in destination, so learning about, you know, where are the points that people are kind of congregating, are they skipping any points? High density footfall and traffic feedback, so learning, you know, are there areas where we can kind of advise people to maybe avoid until another time? This is an interesting one. So a lot of sites that are unmanned, but people still want to get an experience. Applying the stories there allows us to give the people the experience, but actually learn for some of the attractions that have unmanned sites. They get to learn about user engagement without having you know, staff there, which is obviously cost effective. And then onward travel and repeat visits. I mean, the very nature of us having lots of destinations and lots of user generated content on there means that people are less likely to delete the app. You can access the content on the web as well, but it means that you have this opportunity to re-engage visitors, and actually we can then measure whether they actually return at some point to your destination. So here's a few of the partners on the right that we've worked with and told their stories, which we're really proud of. And below, some of the agencies who have either case studied us or we've spoken at. Again, we're delighted and like really proud to have been kind of highlighted by some of these. We're in 76 countries, and that's growing in terms of content. We've got more than 40 languages. We've got a team based across the world, and we are now consulting with DMOs on regional strategy. I thought I'd do a slide for Scotland specifically. There was a bit of a few teasers about Outlander, but we're the official Visit Scotland Outlander map, and we're again really proud to be that. We're also the platform that tells a local, so at the bottom here you can see there's a little circle called Inverness Outlanders. They're a fan-based group that are endorsed by Diana Gabaldon, the author of Outlander. So you've got these two really compelling stories that drive a particular group to the destination. And it's interesting to see the user-generated tour that we have has driven, like, I can't remember, more than 10,000 views or visits, which, you know, at the moment is outperforming the official one. The official one we only launched the week before COVID, so we've seen reach, but I think we'll start to see that pick up as things open up. But I mean, you may recognise some of these out there, but we're really proud to have lots of really amazing partnerships in Scotland, and we're adding more all the time. Yes, like I said, we've been case studied in several. Here's the Visit Scotland toolkit for COVID-19. We were mentioned as a solution within that. I'm sure lots of companies in the room have also been there. And then we've won a few awards, some local, regional, and some global as well, which again, thanks to our team. Some of them are in the audience. And then some of the coverage we've had in different parts of the world. Thank you. And basically, as we're launching the the next version of the platform. If there are any destinations who are interested in joining our Insights strategy platform, please feel free to reach out, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you so much. That was great. I think there was lots in your presentation there, but the from a data perspective, the dashboard and the insights that you can capture is just brilliant. I mean, it just shows the extent of the information that you can capture, and also the kind of the storytelling side of it, the kind of user community building, the content. That's really interesting as well. So no, fantastic. There's some questions coming through in the chat, and now we do want to kind of move into this Q&A and just a kind of broader discussion, really. There is some specific questions. So one of the questions has come up for yourself, Steve, around whether Hooley uses or includes purpose-built trails. I know that there's been interaction going on in the chat box, but I think it would be useful just to kind of answer it more widely for everyone's benefit.
Yeah, so it does. I mean, basically anywhere that there is a path or a road that, you know, can be used by a bike, then it'll be in Hooley and it'll be able to join them up together to create routes. And, you know, it's, in terms of a purpose-built trail centre, it's not the kind of thing that you would turn up a purpose-built trail centre, at least in the moment, and it would say, here's your trails you can go on at this trail centre. It's more about connecting you to trails or creating routes out of all the trails and paths that are available wherever you are. So it'll likely, if you turned up at a trail centre like, say, Glentress and Peebles, then it would incorporate some of the mountain bike trails that are there alongside other stuff that's maybe further afield outside the actual official trail centre.
Great, thank you. There's other questions around that actually ties into the resources side of things. So there's a question around how do the public sector agencies who are actually charged with supporting the sector, how do they maximise their resources for the best possible outcomes? And I suppose that's one really to pose to all the organisations within the sector. How can the public sector agencies best support you and make the best use of the resources?
Perhaps I'll just make a quick first step, if that's all right. Yeah, I think you know, because part of the question, I think that was from Graham, and he was saying about, you know, these multiple apps, and we've talked about two great ones, or three really today. But I think there's a couple of things that I think public agencies should be doing, which is making sure and working with the small businesses that might not be listed or findable within apps that they are, so that they become a data point in location data, I guess, is a really critical part of that. Because I think that the way that you can make yourself visible across multiple platforms is the most important thing. Because the way that visitors work is they go and experience it in all different ways. Some people will really want to do amazing cycling trails and be using Hooley. Others will be wanting to have a great audio tour, be using GeoTourist. You need to make sure that, and it's probably not relevant to Hooley, but you need to make sure you're present in all of those spaces. So helping those businesses become present through their own technology infrastructure is really critical.
Great, thank you.
Even from a Hooley point of view, I would love to be able to just include businesses that are relevant to cyclists. Like, you know, if there was a database that was like, here's all cycling related businesses, and I could port them into the Hooley app. Right? That's beneficial to me, but also beneficial to the businesses. But it's really hard to find that information relatively easily, you know. So
yeah, again, it's those silos of information, isn't it? It's the fragmentation. There's some hands up now as well. So Aileen Lamb, you've put your hands up first.
Hi, Ashley, thank you. And thanks to all the presenters today. Fantastic information. And I'm just really excited to hear so many things going on. I suppose just in terms of us answering the question about how the public sector can help, Josh was right in terms of what many of the businesses across the tourism and hospitality industry should be thinking about. And I think there's a lot of broad support out there from the public sector for businesses. I would really encourage businesses, if they haven't already, to engage with support from organisations like Business Gateway, who deliver Digital Boost. They are doing a lot of work with specific tourism content in collaboration with Visit Scotland. So that's all very much focused on what your tourism business should be thinking about. And there's been a lot of advice and pointers today So I think I would encourage the audience today to get on board with that. I think just also the broader conversation, which has been interesting, about data and about how data can be used more effectively by all kinds of businesses. There has recently been an investment announced by Scottish Government, which is across the public sector, to develop a Scottish tourism data observatory. The purpose of that will be at a Scotland level and then at a regional level to support all the businesses across our sector to better understand the data that is available to them, whether that's open data or in the longer term, perhaps commercial data, and to try and help bring that together in a way that is more accessible to all kinds of businesses. Not everyone has the capacity to work with data themselves, but this aims to be almost an end-to-end opportunity, from people who just need to dip in and get some facts to people who can actually get engaged directly with the actual data. So I would encourage people to watch out for that over the next few months, and that's a long-term project to help support the recovery of Scotland's tourism sector.
That's fantastic, and we'll certainly, I mean, both myself and Josh, any news that we get on those developments, we'll obviously share that straight away, because it's a fantastic opportunity.
Josh is at the coalface on that project, so he'll be letting everybody know about it.
Smashing. Bruce, you had your hand up and then it disappeared. Are you?
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to throw a point in terms of what the public sector can do. I don't want to get too technical, but I think opening data up, and not just at the level of, I'll make my spreadsheet available and the likes of Steve can download that, including his app. If we have open data gateways, live gateways to data, in technical terms called APIs, application programmer interfaces, then you don't have to download the data, you just simply connect to it. So that's what we were able to do with the old Royal Commission bit of HES, was get them to set up a service whereby I just go in real time and say, give me your data for that location, and it's immediately available, rather than having to download and sort of marry up different data sets. So that's really the step that the public sector needs to take. They've done the first one. Often data is available if you go and ask and you download it, but that's really not good enough today. It's having these live interfaces that just makes the interconnections by geography so much easier.
Great, thanks. Roger, you've also got your hand up as well.
Yeah, I've just dropped a web link into the chat window. I am the National Street Gazetteer custodian for Scotland. I represent the 32 local authorities and Transport Scotland for compiling all of the roads data for Scotland to present into a national data set. What is built on top of this is an address database as well, which is maintained by all of the 32 local authorities, and each of the properties and pieces of land within there have a unique property reference number, which is geo-referenced and can be linked in with a number of different data sets. The data set, unfortunately, at the moment is through a paywall through the Public Sector Geospatial Agreement, but can be accessed via through Ordnance Survey and their address address point data sets. So that is available for people to use. There is an open data process going on at the moment with open UPRNs and USRNs, unique property reference numbers, and unique street reference numbers, but it doesn't bring in the address data at the moment. That's something that's ongoing as part of this. But the Gazetteer itself is used by all local authorities, all of the blue light services, is used by people like insurance companies, etc. It is widely used, and does feed into a UK a UK data set of addresses, which includes England and Wales through GeoPlace. So I just out there to sort of say, if you have a look at that link and see if your businesses are in there, then or the addresses of them, then they are accessible for a wide range of users across the whole remit of location data for tourism. So it's always a good idea to know that you're in there.
There's actually another couple of questions. So Roger, I think you had asked a question to Stephen around what open data sets Hooli uses, and I think you've had a bit of dialogue in the chat box to answer that one directly. But then there was another one again for yourself, Roger, around whether there's any plans to link URNs to what 3 words?
That is something that is not proceeding at the moment, but it's obviously, as Bruce alluded to, if you've got a wonderful spatial GIS system, a geographic information system, you can import the UPRNs and what 3 words and join them together. As it's a private business and we look after local authorities, I work for the Improvement Service, which is funded by Scottish local authorities. So it's something that we're not actually looking to do at the moment.
There's other more thematic areas that are coming through within the chat. I'm really conscious of time at the moment, but this aspect of connectivity, and Bruce, you kind of touched upon it as part of your presentation, and the need for the connectivity to really enable location data to the value of it to really be gained from it. Is that something that we really need a deeper chat around, I suppose? Is that something that there needs to be more conversation and dialogue with the public sector around?
I think you're exactly right, Ashley. I've been beating this drum for many years, but it's always a difficult one because individual agencies see their direct provision as their priority. When I've put together demonstrators in the past that kind of show the value of linking this up, but I've gone to Scottish Government meetings and everybody goes, "Oh, this is fantastic, wonderful," but then they kind of go away and think about it and enthusiasm is lost. But I really think that's something that, particularly if it's a benefit to the private sector, that we should actually be saying to Scottish Government, look, this should be a priority. Every agency should have their geographical data put out there in some form with a spatial location, so you can simply say, give us your data for that location, because that's often what the apps and individuals are looking for.
And I think, it's part of Location Data Scotland is really also about the opportunity to engage with Scottish Government or one of our funding partners. So if we can try to almost have a bit of influence and then we can feed these things back, then really that's, and Josh, I'm sure you would agree as well, that we want to try to overcome these challenges for industry, and then if we can do that via the networks and open up the conversation. Really, Bruce, you've already sort of said that you've tried, but I think it's maybe just about keeping knocking on the door again, I suppose.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I've been a bit of a lone voice, but I think the time is probably now right, because I think there possibly wasn't the demand before. It was generally between different agencies saying, "Oh well, we could get your data, you could get our data." But I think if the tourism sector is saying, "Look, actually, we need this to feed out to our users and our apps," then I think that is
there's a real need there, a strong message to take.
Yeah.
And there's a question there for yourself, Sharon, around how do you engage with existing tour guides who have not been working for the last 18 months?
Yeah, I just answered it.
You answered it, sorry.
Just very quickly, we've actually seen an increase in tour guides using our platform. So obviously, a lot of tour guides may see us as a competing threat to their livelihoods. And because we provide a tour experience on the platform for free, what we've seen is that tour guides have come onto the platform and used it to tell their stories so that they get visibility to new potential audiences. And some of them do it either for, they create full tours. Some of them do like teasers, so they'll give you kind of a top line level of info with details of how to book them, as and when the time might be appropriate. So that's what we're doing. One of the things that we have in our kind of a roadmap is a more transactional opportunity for tour guides going forward, so that they can continue to earn while they don't have to show up all the time, so that you have the best of both worlds. I mean, obviously, I would always say the best experience you could have is having a local or a tour guide take you around the place, definitely. But the reality is that whether it's because of a pandemic or timing or schedules, or you can't always get the best person that you want everywhere you go, and that's actually the reason why we actually created GeoChoice. It was born out of an experience that I had when I travelled to Australia, to Ayers Rock, and I was there for a day, and the guide that I wanted to book, it was really expensive, but supposed to be amazing. But it was his day off the day I arrived. So, having spent the money, we had a guide who I didn't feel was as gonna, my expectations were not met. But I was still really curious, and I would have, if I had another day, I would have paid again to hear him. But I was left thinking, well, I'm not going to get that experience. So, wouldn't it be amazing if there was a way that he could have left his voice on the map for me to kind of experience it in my own time, at my own convenience? And there's a spectrum of options that you can have between that and the real person, so that we fill one of those gaps.
And I guess just coming through in the chat that there's an opportunity here, just as I sort of mentioned, for both of the networks to kind of come together to have a joint voice to address some of the challenges that have been highlighted. So that's something that both myself and Josh will certainly take out of the event today. I'm really conscious of time, so I suppose I just want to kind of pull things to a close, unless anyone else has any kind of questions that they want a last gasp opportunity to raise whilst I pull up my kind of final slides. If anyone does, then just let us know. Get my presentation up. So just to kind of pull things to a close, this has been great. The volume of interaction that's happened in the chat box has been absolutely fantastic, and we will share all of that, because there's lots of introductions and networking that's taken place in there. So we will share that post event. We're delighted to work with Travel Tech for Scotland today, and really excited to kind of build on what's happened today and work with the organisations that have come along, and really to help you to explore the potential. I hope today's given you a flavour and a bit of kind of motivation and interest in exploring the potential of location data further. But both myself and Josh are delighted to kind of support the organisations from both networks' perspectives. But in terms of next steps, so we will share a recording. I know that's been asked in the chat box. That there will be a kind of post-event mailer that goes out, so you'll get a recording of all the event today. We'll also share some of the highlights within our LDS LinkedIn group, and we'll post a kind of brief overview article on the website as well. But from my perspective, I would say please do get involved in our survey. That's the kind of first way that we can help you link in with the kind of location data supply side of things, and I'm more than happy to arrange one-to-one chats. And I'm sure Josh, you'll agree that from your network's perspective, that you're more than happy to kind of have these introductory chats and really kind of support organisations. A huge thank you to all the speakers. I think everyone's given an absolutely fantastic presentation today, and then the insights that have been shared is really motivational from our perspective, and just demonstrates the potential of location data, and almost kind of validates why we're here, just yet again sort of thing. So and thanks to the team behind the scenes from Optima and from Travel Tech, who have made today all come together seamlessly. So a huge thank you to everyone. I say you've got our details. There's been links shared in the chat box, so please feel free to follow up with both networks, and we'll be delighted to hear from you. So thanks very much, everyone. Have a fantastic day, and we look forward to working with you all. Thanks, them.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.